If you didn't, be encouraged to raise your hand and somebody will come around and give you a question card. I see one over here. If somebody, I see, and we have somebody in the front. So if you have question cards, if our team has some question cards that they can distribute, just hold your hand up for a minute and we'll make sure we get them over there. Toya? We got one right here, and we've got 3 people over here. It looks like some people may have filled them out. That's the other thing I was going to say. If you have a question already filled out, feel free to go in and hold it up. People will come around and get it. We will remind you to do this again later on, and we'll continue this throughout the evening. With that, I believe we've done all the announcements. We really appreciate you here. Everybody looks great tonight, and it's my pleasure to welcome Mayor Randall Woodfin.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here in District 4. It's an honor to also co-host this town hall meeting with your Councilor and Representative J.T. Moore, who will come up here in a minute and say some brief words, and he'll kick it back to me. A couple things. One, we are at the historic Woodlawn High School, such a beautiful campus. And this high school is led by Principal Davis. Where is she? Is she in the back somewhere? Yes, she's in the back somewhere. But everyone, Principal Davis is here, who I'm pointed at, standing in the back. She's waving her hand. I just want to thank you for hosting us. Woodlawn High School is one of our 7 high schools, and it is important to our community how we support this high school related to what our freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors do here and beyond when they finish high school. You can't hear me? All right, do me a favor, everybody. I promise you a lot of empty seats up here. And it's probably better for you to see this screen as well as no one has the cooties up here, so you can come closer. Our town hall meeting format is very simple. We provide some updates on what we've done for you in the last year, so in 2023, and then we tell you what's happening in 2024, and then the remaining and majority of our time, probably at an hour or so or more, is spent and designed to answer any questions, concerns, thoughts, or ideas you may have related to your block, your street, your neighborhood, your community in District 4. I see your card, please, sir. I promise to give it right back. Yes, sir. This is how it looks. And so the whole idea of this is to make sure that we can get to as many questions as possible. So if you need one or you need an additional one, this is a good time to raise your hand so our team members can see you and pass it out to you. Thank you, sir. With that said, I want to give it over to Councilor J.T. Moore to make some introductory remarks, and then he'll pass it back to me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. All right, cool. All right. Just wanted to, first of all, just say thank you to the mayor and his team for coming out tonight and having this town hall with us in District 4. I also want to make sure that I do the same as well, acknowledging Ms. Principal Davis for allowing us to be here tonight. And so thank you, Ms. Davis. I think she probably stepped out for a second. Oh, there she is. But then I also wanted to acknowledge, any other principals that we have here tonight that also serve in D4. I know I saw Principal Stewart over at Hudson K-8 School, who is in the back as well. I don't know if we have any other principals in here, or, Principal Brown over at Inglenook. Y'all give it up for those two. They do tremendous work in our schools, and I'm so glad to be able to partner with them. I also wanted to acknowledge any other elected officials that may be in the room tonight as well. I'm not sure if we have anybody that showed up, but wanted to make sure I acknowledge them at least. Mr. Mayor, what I will say before I take my seat is that this is a very passionate group, very passionate, who have a lot of questions, would like to get a lot of answers, but I also believe and know that this is one of the best groups to work with. I know that they, call and email a lot, And I appreciate the involvement of each and every person that is here tonight. And so I'm thankful again that we have the mayor to answer all of your questions. And I know that before you all leave tonight that we will be very, very pleased with the information that we receive. And so with that being said, I just want to pass it back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, a couple of notes, everybody, before we get into the slides here. You have some individual sheets of paper that have been passed out to you. One is the annual street resurfacing page, so it gives you detail on the neighborhood as well as the project street. So everyone should have a copy of that. The other, which I'll go through in detail at some point, is what's called the Connect Birmingham, that allows your exterior cameras on your home or your business to be incorporated into our real-time crime center to provide additional eyes for protecting the neighborhood, as well as, if a crime occurs, investigative purposes. It gives you more detail on this page that talks about our camera registration and its process. And then we've been talking a lot this week about Crime Stoppers, as well as our drug nuisance abatement team, which I'll go through in detail in a minute, as well as detail on the down payment assistance program for those who want to be homeowners in District 4. With that said, we'll get into the first slide on this that you can see. Again, if you cannot see this because you're in the back and you are a resident, there are a lot of seats up front, so feel free to come up front. But we start with something that's extremely important to residents citywide, and that is street paving. So we talk about what we did last year first in 2023. Citywide, we did about $12.5 million in street paving. Over the last 6+ years, we've done about $60 million in street paving citywide. For citywide districts, that included about 43 miles and 246 segments in District 4 last year. And for your district alone, that was about 42 street segments. Again, you have a list if you go to the next slide. So what are we doing this year in 2024? We are doing about $13 million in street paving. And a lot of that is beginning right now, before the weather breaks and it gets cooler and colder. That's about 36 miles citywide worth of street paving, and that's about 30 street segments in District 4. Again, they're passing out, but you can see the streets in your district that will be paved this year in District 4. If you could, go to the next slide. We then go from street paving to talking about projects, capital projects, infrastructure issues in your district that are important to you. So we talk about parks and recreation centers and things of that nature. So I start with East Lake Park, which is one of the 4 largest parks in our city. This park is in Northeast Lake, and we've been working on a few things related to repairs. One of those things is the court resurfacing that got pretty bad. And I know this project took a long time, but it's since been completed. And then you go on up to Highway 79 off the Tallapoosa exit and get into the Inglenook neighborhood. There's some playground equipment that was very, very outdated in the Inglenook neighborhood. What we've been able to do is purchase and have the installation of that playground equipment. And then Macklin Park over in the Collegeville area. The pool is not completed yet. The work is being done on the back end to get it to a point where we can open the pool back up. But process-wise, we've been able to obtain some quotes from Cox Pool because we've been able to detect leaks. And as long as we've detected leaks, unfortunately, we're not able to allow usage of that pool now. We come back to the Shepherd Center. Unfortunately, that building got to a point where it was just inhabitable. No one could use it for recreational purposes. So we're in the process of demoing that building because it is beyond repair. And then, do I have any residents in the airport hills or behind the airport area? Show high hands. Airport, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? Separate question, more deeper. Any residents from Pine Knoll? Pine Knoll, any residents? No Pine Knoll Vista residents? Even though I don't see any here, I'll still talk about this project, which is an infrastructure project extremely important to the residents of Pine Knoll. There's been some erosion and drainage issues in that area for a significant time. This project was put out and then it was shelved years back prior to being there, and then this project became a priority to the residents of Pine Knoll, as well as Councilor J.T. Moore, who put significant amount of money from his American Rescue Plan dollars to close the financial gap to make this project become real. And so the capital projects team has since done a 100% design phase to repair the heavily eroded drainage ditch, as well as the current process for about 11 residents. We're working on some acquisition of land, a portion of land to finish that project. So that takes some residential buy-in, and we're going through that process now. Once that process is completed, we will then have the green light to fix and repair the drainage issue in Pine Knoll that's extremely important to the residents of that neighborhood. If you could go to the next slide. So for each city council district, and we've been doing town halls working backwards this year. Every year we usually do town hall meetings in numerical order, with the exception of the president and city council pro tem of the city council. This year we started with District 9, District 8, 7, 6, 5, so on and so on. We get to District 4, everybody, and I said that number is pretty big compared to other districts. The number I'm referring to is 8,175. That number represents the bags of litter collected in your city council district just in 1 year. 8,100 plus bags of litter, almost 8,200. You can't see it, so I'm gonna say it out loud. That is the equivalent of 104 garbage truckloads of litter in District 4. It's something we tackle every day. It's something we grapple with. We put down cameras in certain areas and they just move somewhere else. The illegal dump, we pick it up, is back down within 48 to 72 hours. People walk into a store, walk into a gas station, walk into a corner store, make a purchase, walk back home or wherever they're walking to, and before they get to their location or destination, if it's a bag of chips or a drink and they're finishing, they just drop it on the ground. And it just happens every single day. Your district is an outlier on the amount of bags of litter collected just in 1 year. Again, that's almost 8,200 bags of litter we collected, literally, as in we pick it up separate from all the cleanup days, which I think he's lost count of the number of cleanup days he does in conjunction with residents and neighborhoods. You also had some significant potholes we repaired last year. From January of 2023 up until the end of last year, it's about 1,166 potholes repaired in District 4. And then we talk about the citywide garbage cart system. Has everybody been able to adjust by a show of hands to the new uniform cart system? All right. Because if there are any problems, we can go in detail. Does anybody need an additional cart? Show of hands. If you need an additional cart, there's a process for you either at birminghamal.gov/pickup, or you can come down to the admin building on 6th Avenue, Public Works. There's a number you can dial to that I can give to you later if you need to understand or go through the process of purchasing a second uniform trash bin, as well as those seniors and elders or those with physical restraints. If you need help with your trash bin because of terrain or topography issues, you can also reach out to us and we can assist you with your trash as well. Go to the next slide, please. So I want to talk about something that's extremely important, and we call it the eye test. And I think in District 4, it's unfortunate that there are pockets of District 4 that are higher than other parts. And it's been an issue for decades. It's something that we've been tackling every year, but it's still a problem, and that is blighted structures. So think Collegeville, think Inglenook, certain areas behind the airport, and there's a lot of neighborhoods in District 4 that have this issue. We've spent millions of dollars over the last few years in blight removal, and we've torn down a few thousand blighted structures, but there were so many of them. In addition to that, there's a long process we have to go through and clear, not just with our local legal department, but with the state. Because even if the blighted property is in a position that it needs to be torn down, by law, we just can't go on private property and tear it down. It's a process. The good news is we've identified an additional 40 structures in District 4 for demolition. 16 of the 40 they've been not only condemned, but we've been able to remove them. And so the others remaining, almost 25, it's 24 to be exact, will be a priority in this district to tear down. We did go to housing inspections, where unfortunately it turns out that some of your neighbors aren't in compliance with our everyday environmental laws for various reasons. So we've inspected about 225 of them, and we got a lot more to close out because only 19 have been closed. Then unfortunately you have a high number of vacant properties. You take care of one problem, another problem is created. You remove the blighted structures, you have a now empty lot. We've identified 613 vacant properties that have been cut by contractors since January of last year. So I can't wait to talk more about our land bank process, because we got to be in a position to, as well as in partnership with private developers, to build more homes on these vacant lots, because we can't be in the grass cutting business forever. The other thing is 173 occupied dwellings have had code violations since January of 2023 for various reasons that we've been able to address as well. If you could go to the next slide. So we talk about crime, and of course, the number one issue on everyone's mind is not just homicides, but all forms of gun violence. At the same time, I want to remind the community that there are other crimes that exist in our community, such as rape, robbery, assaults. In addition to that, other property crimes such as theft, auto theft, and burglary. What I can tell you, with the exception of murder, all other crimes are down in our city. That is nothing to brag about. It gives us just one thing more to focus on, which is gun violence and homicides. I'll be in a position before we leave tonight to go more into detail about what we're doing to address gun violence in our city. If you could go to the next slide. But one of the things that was happening citywide, not just in District 4, not just downtown, was exhibition driving. So two things happened this past spring. One, we created Operation Night Rider, and two, the legislators approved an exception to the rule to allow camera usage for those committing exhibition driving. And from April to June, so just in one season, about 90 days, we were able to make and charge 143 felony charges combined and stem from exhibition driving that included seizing 57 vehicles. 10 of those vehicles were stolen. And since then, we've been able to decrease auto theft in our city, as well as we took about 86 firearms off the streets, where 10 of them had Glock switches. And if you read the media today, those cases will be federally indicted, and those people will have to sit down for up to 10 years, because these type of devices, Glock switches, are literally designed. If you don't know what a Glock switch is, a Glock switch is a device put onto a semi-automatic weapon that allows it to become an automatic weapon. You pull the trigger one time, you hold it down one time, and all the bullets let loose. You can't necessarily train for that. Those bullets are meant and designed to inflict massive carnage. And that's how innocent people are shot and killed. The good news is those devices are illegal at the federal level. We need to work with the state to pass a law to get it to be illegal at the state level. And we need to indict more people who drive around with them and shoot out of their vehicles into homes, shoot out of their vehicles into other cars. We believe this is an aggressive approach in partnership working with our federal partners to sit more people down who are harming people. If you go to the next slide. I talked briefly about this earlier, this program called Connect Birmingham. Just by a show of hands, who has an exterior camera on their home or their business? All right, that's, if not all of you, at least a third of you. This is an extremely important program that you have two options right now. Option one is that you can scan this QR code. Option two, I think, in this back table back here, or if it hasn't been given to you, a sheet of paper for you to scan or sign up. But here's what this program does. This is what we define as a technology way of better, not just community policing, but what I define as a way for you as citizens, for citizen watch, meaning your exterior camera, if a crime happens in your block, your street, or your neighborhood, or in proximity where you live, the faster we can get information from that exterior camera, so we're not big brothers, just exterior, not interior of your home. But if something happens or occurs on your block that you believe is a crime or we know is a crime, the more information, the faster information we can get from a technological standpoint, it helps with the investigation and or faster arrest to take a criminal off the street that's terrorizing or committing crime on your block, your street, your neighborhood, your community. So this is an extremely important program that allows additional eyes and ears via cameras in our city in partnership with our everyday residents that doesn't require you to do anything. Doesn't require you to do anything. You're at home, you work from home, you're at work and you don't work from home, something happens on your block, access with your permission allows us to investigate a crime. So please consider, for those hands that went up, signing up for this program. When you scan the QR code or the paper in your hand, it gives you detail about what it is and what it's not related to, how to address this program and participate. And trust me, this program, if you participate, and we get this program citywide where more residents are participating, this is a great, effective tool to help us to decrease crime in our city. Next slide. DNAT stands for Drug Nuisance Abatement Team. DNAT is led by the Office of City Attorney, who also runs that department, is Ms. Nicole King, who is sitting on this front row. What her team does is, separate from you calling 911, separate from you engaging the criminal courts, DNAT allows a civil process if you are aware of a drug house, a house that's a continued nuisance for anything, to call 205-254-2369. Again, that phone number is 205-254-2369. It allows us to go after people in the civil court, the owner, not the renter, but the owner, whether it's multifamily, single family, business. And if there's criminal activity or any other form of activity that's deemed a nuisance for that neighborhood community, we go through a civil process and get in front of a civil judge to shut it down or get them to correct their behavior. And if they don't correct their behavior, we go back for the judge to say, shut the whole thing down, whether it's the apartment complex, whether it's the single family house, or the business. Again, this is another effective tool on fighting crime outside of the criminal courts. This program has been so effective, we've had 152 properties that have received corrective action in our city from a civil judge. And this program is new. It hasn't existed in a long time. Of the 152, 47 of them have been in your district, so it does work. So please, on your block, on your street, in your neighborhood, if you are aware of a drug house, any property, apartment complex, single-family home, business that is a nuisance, please dial this number and we will open up an investigation. And then we've been able to collect money, and we put that money back into a neighborhood revitalization fund. If you could go to the next slide. So we have community development members here, and we have a program we have a critical repair program where residents are allowed to, through a process, and the rules are from the federal government, not local. 31 homes have been approved for critical repair. That's usually some form of the exterior of their home, which includes a roof repair, something for their porch, and or paint, and other things that helps bring that house not only up to code, but makes it more efficient for a homeowner that may be a senior or elder, but doesn't necessarily have help, whether it's insurance, extended family, and or other things that assist them. So this is a very important program that helps our seniors with repairs to their home. If you go to the next slide. Earlier, I talked about the down payment assistance. Do I have any wannabe homeowners in here, or any people who desire to be homeowners? Again, you can scan this QR code to get more detail on how to become a homeowner in District 4. We've been able to create a down payment assistance program that includes up to $10,000 to support you to become a homeowner in the city limits of Birmingham in District 4. That includes a 5-year forgivable loan at 0 interest, as well as the program is brand new, but we've already had 7 closings just over the last few months. So again, you want to be a homeowner in the city limits of Birmingham, you need help, you need financial assistance, you need guidance, please scan this QR code and or see one of our community development team members who are here tonight to help you with detail of this process. If you could go to the next slide. So then we talk about our land bank. The land bank is extremely important for our city's growth. It is one of the most powerful, effective tools on making community neighborhoods better, empowering residents, whether you live next door to an empty lot or you have interest in making community better. Our land bank is led by Caroline Douglas, and she has a board, and they do amazing work. So we just wanted to break it down for residents of District 4. In isolation, just for your district, there are 167 unsold properties that are part of the land bank in District 4. Separate from that number, there are 184 that have been sold to go back on our property rolls and ideally go vertical with single-family homes on those 184 empty lots. And then you see these other numbers where we're engaging developers that are either underdeveloped or completed development. The point is, the land bank is the most effective tool that empowers you, the resident, the neighbor, of how to engage an empty lot and take control back for those who didn't take care of their property. Get it from the city, because it's not the business we want to be in, and empower you to have a neighborhood that's not Snaggletooth. If you could go to the next slide. So part of the land bank, again, as you can see, this is just some before and after. The house on the left and the house on the right is the same house. But the land bank, it was purchased from the land bank, and this is the rehab they were able to do. So it's not just empty lots. It's also existing houses that you can repair, as well as in the Woodlawn area, same house left, same house right, before and after. Some of you may can't see it, but trust me, it's better. If you could go to the next slide. So we're coming to an end of the formal presentation, and we're getting ready to go into our Q&A. All your questions. We're going to try to get to all your questions over the next hour. But this is a way to stay in contact with us: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube, Other forms is our city's website. You can text BHAM Ready, that's BHAMREADY, to 888-777. That gives you an instant way to stay in contact with us via text. And there are various other ways to stay informed with us. If I'm correct, that's the last slide. So here's how the next format works for the remaining of our time. JT Moore and I will stand up here as Rick as he says out loud the question you have. JT and I will answer your questions.
Yes, sir. Just a reminder for everybody. Sorry, we'll get out of the way there. Just a reminder for everybody: if you have a question card that you filled out and nobody's picked it up yet, just hold it up high, and we've got folks who will come around and grab it. I'll grab yours right there, and yours, and then we will have folks just hold it up, and they'll come around. If you need a card, if you don't have a card, just hold your hand up, and they'll come around for you. We're going to move through these as much as we can. You got that shot, right? Okay, great. Our first question comes from Penfield Park. The question is, will you also file charges if a gun has a ruler clip? A ruler clip. We had to look into that too.
So I don't know the answer to that question, but we have Chief Thurman here who can try to answer your question.
So good evening. A ruler clip is basically a high-capacity magazine is what that is. And currently in the United States, it's not illegal to have a high-capacity magazine. Many years ago, when there was the Brady legislation, that was regulated. But unfortunately, having a high-capacity magazine is no longer illegal in the United States or the state of Alabama.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, this one comes from Roebuck. What is the status of repairs at Hawkins Rec Center and Bullitt Grayson Park?
I don't see my capital projects like, oh, boom, you're in my face. Tripping, I'm sorry, I apologize. Do you have? So here's the deal. Has that moved to your district, or is that still two?
So that is currently one.
That's one? It's one. All right. You see the pause because I don't have an answer, and I don't want to make up an answer. I don't have the answer to that question. I will get an answer to that question. The good news is we have several more of these town hall meetings where that rec center is actually in District 1. That will be our last town hall meeting. I will have a more detailed answer by then in person, but I will also have an answer before today. So Rick, be sure somebody pings me to answer that question before we leave.
So I will say this in response to that question. I do know that the Park and Recreation team has been surveying that project. They've also, made sure that they've looked at what repairs need to be made, and so some updates should come soon from their findings.
And we can follow back up and we can put that out as well. Also, just going through this one out, what can be done about residents from outside municipalities such as Tarrant and Centerpoint in regards to dumping trash within the city of Birmingham?
That's a really good question. So the team, for a significant amount of time, with technology usage, we've been trying to figure out a way to catch people who are illegally dumping. Illegal dumping comes in many ways. It comes in ways of your own neighbor who has things that they have the legal option to put in front of their home on the date of pickup for bulk trash, and they refuse to. They'll just dump it in somebody else's alley. It's the weirdest thing. You also have contractors in your district, in your neighborhoods who do work. Please call us when you see them doing that. Take a picture. You don't have to engage them. But our Don't Be a Dummy campaign. You take a picture of the tag. If you got a picture of the person, bring it to us. We'll walk you through the process on how we can literally hold that person accountable. And then you do have people who don't live in our city limits, as those two cities named, that come in and illegally dump. I think the biggest thing we have to do is make an example out of them, catch them, and then shame them publicly, unfortunately. But that's what you have to do to get people notice of not doing that in our city, not doing that in our neighborhood. That requires us to enhance our technology. Turns out we can't be in every alley, every street, and there's some consistency in every time we pick it up. I told you earlier, literally it gets back on the ground within 48 to 72 hours. I was just talking to Mr. Davis, who was the second in charge of our public works. I'm sure by now all of you all have heard of our pilot Safer Streets program in District 5 for the East Lake neighborhood. There is an alley, just a stretch of alley between Division and First Avenue South streets that even since this project has been up 2 weeks, we've had to pick up illegal dumping twice. Just in 2 weeks, twice. Separate from that, I've lost count how many times. Even with the barriers, they still find ways to physically get trash dumped in alleys. So for that, what we're going to do next is do something creative with technology to capture who's doing it, because they keep coming back to the same alley. And I think for District 4 in certain neighborhoods, where your neighborhood is defined as a gateway from another city that's east of you to come west into your neighborhood, we're going to have to do more license plate readers? LPRs, license plate reader cameras, as well as other mounted cameras, hunting cameras, and other forms of technology to actually capture these people. And I think once we start capturing them and shaming them the same way we do the exhibition driving night rider operation, then you'll see results change and dumping decrease. What I can tell you from the Operation Night Rider is that we kept sharing with the public these people have been arrested for this activity. And we've seen a decrease in exhibition driving within our city limits in 2024 versus 2023. I think it's time to do the same thing for illegal dumping as well as discharging firearms.
Yes, sir. This one comes from Kingston. Why can't our community have speed breakers and more pole lights on 46th Street North?
So the question is, it was framed as why can't you? I'm not sure nobody said no, unless somebody said no, but I doubt anybody has said no. I think what we can do now that we have the street is investigate and see if the street warrants some form of traffic calming. We get hundreds of traffic calming requests citywide on a monthly and yearly basis. If I am correct, I think there are over 300 in the queue that are actually unfunded at this point. So just because you live on the street or use a street often and you say, well, put a speed breaker here, give us some form of a traffic calming, that doesn't mean we will automatically do it. The Department of Transportation has to do a process where they investigate and see if it's warranted. Am I missing anything? You want to add anything?
We already have 46th Street North at 784 46th Street North. So we do have that in the queue of those 300 plus that we already have for Kingston.
May we also have a name and a phone number for that, so we've made a note to follow up, so we can do that as well and connect with Mr. Blevins. Okay, our next question from Norwood: What is the direction and management of Norwood Park's homeless settlement problem? I think it's what is the direct contact for the direction and management for Norwood Park's homeless settlement problem. I think they're just asking about that.
Elena Melton, everyone.
Good evening. So we do a couple things to give people their dignity, right? If they're experiencing homelessness, we want to know how they got there and what resources we can offer. So we have engaged, and as recently as this week, BPD has been out a couple of times. If people refuse any services that we can offer, then we do let them know that they have to move on and find somewhere else. And so BPD has done that, and so tomorrow that site will be clean, that encampment will be removed.
Before Rick goes on, did you want to add anything, brother? JT Moore and I failed to do something that's extremely important. If you are a neighborhood officer in District 4, could you please stand and be recognized? Neighborhood officer. So just shout out to these folk who bear the burden for free. They crazy like we are, maybe, and handling a lot of complaints and issues in your various neighborhoods. So we just want to publicly thank you for your hard work, sacrifice as well, because you meet monthly, and you get beat up a lot. Also crazy. But we want to thank you for what you do for your neighborhood. The presidents, the vice presidents, and secretaries. Thank you so much.
And community officers as well. I appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. This one comes from Eastlake related to safe streets. Why are the main streets being blocked instead of alleyways?
You know, the alleys are a challenge because many of our residents, that's such a designed neighborhood. It's beautiful. You have the wide streets. Everybody has a front yard, backyard. Everyone has sidewalks. And then every street has an alley in between. And many of the residents actually use the alleys for parking. And so we didn't want to take their parking away and push them onto street parking. Right now, we're focused on the actual streets and slowing traffic down on the main streets for several reasons. This project is not designed just to stop people's ability to be able to drive in, shoot, and easily drive out. It's also designed to literally slow down traffic so the families we've talked to, who we personally talked to, who we stood on their porch, who stood in their yard and says, I just want my child to feel free to play and be safe outside. The alley, there are two complaints that we're working on in the alleys. One is the dumping that we're aggressively working on, and two are filling the potholes. But today, 2 weeks into this project, we're not in a position to close the alleys. I think we can continue to look in that, but as of today, we're not in a position to.
This comes from Brummett Heights. Is the city responsible for the trimming of shrubs around neighborhood signs? If so, we need the shrubs trimmed around the sign that says Brummett Heights on Evergreen Street.
You can stand right there and just introduce yourself.
Good evening. I serve as the Deputy Director of Horticulture and Urban Forestry, and we do maintain some neighborhood signs. We also encourage the citizens, if they would like to be involved with their neighborhood type signs, to service them as well. We can work in combination with you, or if you have a special request, we can work with that too, but I'll put that on my list. Brummett Heights? Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You got it, Rick.
Yes, sir. This one comes from Woodlawn. What can we do to get a camera on my street to help stop illegal dumping? The address, I'll just give the general address, is 62nd Street South, 300 block.
Oh, yeah, don't do that. The pause is I always want to give straight, candid, honest, authentic answers. Again, I never want to stand before you and BS you or make up stuff. I want to give you the good news first. We received a federal grant in the tune of millions of dollars for more technology capabilities throughout our city. That is literally going to allow us to put more cameras up throughout our city. Then two, in partnership with our U.S. Senator, our U.S. Junior Senator, she was able to leverage about an additional, I think, $4 million for more technology that includes cameras. We're getting ready to start a partnership and program with our local business community. Chief, I haven't even told you this yet, but we're going to use it through our police foundation. We need more cameras. We need a lot of them. We need a lot of them for several reasons. One of the reasons we need them is because we got some cultural challenges with people not cooperating with the police to help our ability to solve crime and take criminals off the street. The code of silence is extremely deafening in this city, and I don't like it. You don't like it either. But the other reason, again, the legislators allowed camera usage for exhibition driving, which was a problem in 2022, 2023. So we need more cameras for that as well. And then the third thing is illegal dumping. Now the question is, on my particular street, I can't guarantee you that because I don't know, the mayor's office won't be in a position to deploy cameras. We'll leave that to the police department related to where's the highest form of crime, crimes against persons, crimes against property, as well as gun violence, etc. However, with the illegal dumping, there are some team members here that have been aggressively working on this issue. So I do believe this. There are some cameras that we mount that we may be in a position to say, you know what, take this camera from here and just put it over here for a while and see if we can catch somebody. So that's the best way for me to answer that. Not saying that I can give you a permanent camera in that area, but I may be able to give you one if you believe it's a hot spot. We pick it up. We pick up the illegal dumping. We place the camera and see if it'll happen again within a week or two or less. And if so, that empowers us to capture that person, get their tag, get a visual of the person, et cetera, and make a case.
This one comes from Inglewood, and I believe it references the street resurfacing list we passed out. Why are no streets in Inglewood on this particular list?
Well, because JT and I didn't make the list. That's the honest answer. The list you see before you is in the rears, meaning before he became a counselor, before I became mayor, the previous mayor and council had a street paving list for 5 years. Now, the good news, we're coming up on the end of that list. The better news is Councilor Moore and his colleagues approved a better, more objective, neutral, efficient process to actually letter grade every single street in the entire city. Every street. Best streets are A, second best streets are B, fair streets are a C, and then the worst streets are D's and F's. Citywide. That process is near completion, and once it's actually complete, what I have told and the directive I've given to the team is to share that information publicly so you can know on the street you live on in the city, where does that street fall? A, B, C, D, F. Now, this is a rhetorical question, but what do you think streets should be paid first citywide? It's not A's and B's, the D's and F's. We'll do that citywide. That'll be a fair, more process citywide. So the streets that are D's and F's in Inglenook, D's and F's in Woodlawn and Collegeville and behind the airport and Northeast Lake and Collegeville, Fairmont, and Norwood. Who else am I missing? Berman Heights. All the neighborhoods in District 4 that are D's and F's will be in a pile with the D's and F's citywide, and D's and F's will get the priority citywide. That is a better process that it's not a squeaky wheel based on political which streets we think should be paved because we're not professionals in street paving. That process is almost complete, and once we have the list, that's how we'll start paving streets.
Y'all ain't got to clap. I'm going to clap for it because I know that that's something that has been giving me a lot of heartburn because y'all, you know, I done got beat up a lot about these streets. So.
Okay, this makes the reference of Neighborhood Watch, but I don't know if it's particularly Neighborhood Watch, so I'm going to read it. Can more be done to give teeth to the Neighborhood Watch program? When a neighborhood person reports an ordinance that is broken, that person reporting should not have to defend themselves. when the call is made. They also, as a note, Mayor, they also want to thank Ms. Katrina Thomas and PEP for excellent information and assistance.
Darren Witt. So one of Katrina's teammates is here. The deputy, Darren Witt, leads PEP. Let me start off by saying to the public, to the residents of District 4, I apologize. I apologize to you. I think this is the second town hall meeting I've been to in recent time where residents say, hey, we call, and then we get dimed out by the people who we call. They go to that resident who's in violation of such and such and say, well, this neighbor, here's their name and here's where they stay called. That's not cool. That hurts the process of getting people comfortable continuing to call us to share and come up off of information who's committing violations or who's violating laws. So genuinely, I apologize for that. What we have told all team members, not just PEP, not just police, but follow Crime Stoppers model, which I have been harping on every single day for the last few days. It's important that if people want to remain anonymous, allow them to remain anonymous. As long as they're giving credible information on any form of violation in our city, code enforcement, environmental, inoperable vehicles, drugs, shootings, whatever it is, if people don't want to share, don't make them share. Just make sure we pull that information and we hold to the person not wanting to give their information, i.e. their name or their number or their home address. I'm going to keep harping on that so you can be more comfortable coming off information that allows us in a better position to hold the violator for whatever it is accountable. So please keep calling. If that happens, if that violation occurs, you call down to the mayor's office and I want you to ask for Cedric Sparks so we can hold that team member accountable who violated your trust. Am I missing anything?
I guess the only other thing that I would say as well is please make sure that you notify your neighborhood association officers of the calls that you're making and the complaints that you're making so that they also can be, in lock and step with you as well. I think that, a lot of times people try to attack these types of issues on their own and not utilize the power that we have in the numbers of our community. We have a lot of people who are involved, who are engaged, and if we stand together, then we'll be able to get more done. So,
Mayor, this one comes from Bromont Heights. It's a less question and more request. Shrubs on Evergreen Street and Spruce Avenue need to be trimmed or cut down. They are blocking traffic view.
Short answer. We'll have somebody investigate that. And if that's city right-of-way, city property, and it restricts or impedes traffic flow, I promise you we'll cut it. Make sure we investigate that, and if it needs to be handled before the month of July is over. Thank you.
what was the street again?
You got it. They've got it. It's Evergreen and Spruce, and we've got it. We're going to pass it on over to the team, but it's Evergreen and Spruce. This one, very similar, from Woodlawn, probably the same answer. We've got a contact number and name for this and email. I'm concerned about the trees in my backyard behind the fence. What can I do?
Again, I'm in the backyard. I'm imagining that's either an alley or some form of access off city right away. If that tree is off city right away with that address, let's investigate that.
Okay, this question from Norwood. Why does Norwood lack access to on-demand ride share service?
So on-demand via. I remember the first time I had conversations about on-demand. Started in 2018. For you all who don't know what on-demand via service is, it's micro-transit. Now, micro-transit, people don't talk like that either, so let me just say what it is. Show of hands, who know what Uber is? Heard of Lyft? All right, Uber and Lyft allows you through a private company to engage being a customer via in the back seat like a taxi. Microtransit on demand, Birmingham on demand via, VIA, so that's several substitute names I've just given. But all of that combined is a public form of microtransit, a public form of Uber. Except it doesn't drop you off necessarily at the door of the address you want to go to. It drops you off in proximity of it. So if Chief's Chair is your actual place you desire to go, probably drops you off about right here and lets you walk your remaining way. The point is, we started the conversation in 18, I want to say by 2019, 2020, it started as a pilot program in more of the central part of our city. It has since expanded. Well, every time it expands, it's more dollars. And so it started in a small footprint, and then we started expanding it west. And then we started expanding it in line with the bus rapid transit system to make it more efficient for public transportation. I'm going to imagine the reason why it hasn't come to Norwood yet. The easy answer is because we haven't expanded that far north yet. But I think as growth continues in that area, there's more justification to expanding that area. Right now, I think we know the bus routes, Highway 31, and a few other areas related north that come through Norwood. But as of today, it's not justified to expand in that area yet. The Department of Transportation leads where their expansion needs to be. Again, it's not necessarily politically driven. They have a heat map over the city based on who uses public transportation, how often they use public transportation, and most importantly, how they make it the most efficient and incorporate it into our existing BJCTA routes as well as our bus rapid transit system that makes VIA most optimized for its usage and to get the best out of it. It's cheap. I think it costs, $1.50? So it does work. We're just not today in a position to expand it north. Doesn't mean we're not going to. It's just not there yet.
Got a couple of questions that are same. One is South Woodlawn, I'm not sure the other. I'm going to ask them both. When will the overgrown lots be cut that some were reported 5 years ago? And who do I contact about overgrown vacant lots?
So if there's an overgrown vacant lot, you can definitely contact our office, and we'll make sure that we send that information over to the mayor and his team.
Yeah, I'm going to be plainer than that. Vacant lots fall in one of three categories, everybody. They're privately owned, they're city owned, or they fall in our land bank. Now, there are thousands of them across the city. And just to cut one, I think the process takes anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to be approved by the city council. Just to be approved and get legal permission to go on private property to cut. And citywide, majority of the properties are privately owned. So it's a process. I'm very, very honest. Now, I will make an exception if you're telling me a lot hasn't been cut in 5 years. Rick, make sure we get that address, and I want that investigated before close of business tomorrow.
We have one of them. We didn't get the other, but we have one for sure.
5 years is long. But I'm required to be honest with you. The city of Birmingham is not sustainable to be in the grass cutting business. I want to explain that, and this answer may be longer than it needs to be, but I think our residents need to be made aware of process and what's at stake related to lots. One is this. I told you the process and how long it takes, but it's thousands of them, or a majority of them are private property. So we take public tax dollars to go on private lots. Well, we can only go on so many. And the real question is, I think we all know how fast grass grows, meaning we cut it once. I told you how long the process takes. That grass has already grown back in what, a week and a half or 2 weeks? So maybe we can get to that one lot one time in 1 year. But it's private property. So we try to hold private owners accountable, but then they fall into the category of either slum or absentee. So we put a lien on the property every time we cut it, and then we don't collect because the absentee landowner doesn't even care. It turns out in the state of Alabama, the absentee landowner has much power as you, the homeowner who loves your house next door, does. So I tell you what, I promise you, if you want to go on that lot, we will not call the police. Put our head down and say nothing. You want to partner with your neighbors and y'all want to have a grass cutting party? Call us, we'll join you. The team's going to beat me up for saying that. I'm not being flippant. I'm just telling you the struggles of, I think we put a few $1 million a year in grass cutting. The more we put in grass cutting, the more it takes away for something else, cutting private property. The responsibility for the city of Birmingham with your tax dollars is city right-of-way, city parks, city properties. That's the priority. So forgive us for not being able to get back to that private lot as much as you want, but it's private property. We spend a whole lot of time holding that private owner accountable, including putting a lien on their property when we cut it. Because before they can do anything with it, they got to give us those tax dollars back. Did I miss anything?
So I'm going to do a follow-up on that from Kilo Springs. You mentioned the lien, so I'm just going to mention this. This person asked, why can't the city fine investors and property owners for not keeping up houses and properties?
Everyone, this is Caroline Douglas, who leads our land bank.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, who said hi? Hey, how you doing? In many of the neighborhoods, you have vacant lots. And if you are a homeowner, you own the home that you live in, and there's a vacant lot to your left or to your right or on your same block. Or if you are a member at a church or a pastor, a board member, and you have vacant lots on that block, this is an opportunity for you to lead that cleanup revitalization effort in your neighborhood. We have a program called the Lot Lease Program. The lot has to be vacant, no structure, all weeds. And what we can do is give you a 2-year lease to rightfully access that property, because I know that you have to maintain it next to you or else it's going to cause you issues. But you're technically trespassing, technically. So if you go through the lot lease program, we will give you the access to that lot. You maintain that lot for 2 years, and then you're first in line to purchase that lot. So why does that even matter? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Penalizing, is that what you were saying? What's the question, Rick? I appreciate that. What's the question?
The one we just asked, or a new question?
Yeah, that one you just asked.
The one I just asked
Yeah.
was, can you penalize investors or property owners who don't maintain those properties?
Okay, and so the reason why the mayor brought me up to talk is to give you an avenue to take possession of those lots. Is that okay? Can I share that information with you? Okay. All right. So those lots that are vacant are tax delinquent. We can reach a property if it's 3 years or more tax delinquent. Why that's important is every lot that's overgrown is not tax delinquent. You have some lots that are overgrown and there's an absentee owner that's keeping up those taxes and not maintaining that property. So what we do is we find, if you called us at our office and told us there's a vacant lot next door to you and you own your home and you want access to that lot for that 2-year period, we will check that address and make sure that it's at least 3 years tax delinquent. If it is, one-time fee of $100 for 2 years. One-time fee of $100 for 2 years pays for your lease. Once that 2-year period is over, what I want you to do, save up that money. It's going to cost about $5,000 to clear that title. The reason why that's important is this. You can buy a tax lien from the state if you want to. But when you buy that tax deed, you're buying all the debt that comes with that. And what I've seen are old mortgages, old liens, and you are 100% responsible for those. But when you buy it through the land bank, the attorneys we work with will clear that title. And because of the way we're set up by state law, you don't have to pay for those delinquencies. You are only paying to quiet that title. And so for $5,000, you clear that title, you have no obligation to pay any of the liens that may be delinquent, and now it is yours. That's why that's powerful. We're not creating any more land. So you have an opportunity to not only gain access to that property, but you also have an opportunity to buy it.
Good evening, everyone. So I think your question also was tailored to fines. And when you talk about fines, that comes under the drug nuisance abatement team. And so there's 2 prongs in which we handle cases. First are your drug cases. Those are where you know there are drug houses located right next door to you. We need your help. So most of our tips come from you all. So we can't do this without you. Under those type of cases, the law allows us to fine anywhere from $500 up to $50,000. We take these cases to court, but a lot of times we don't have to. We can just send a letter, and that letter puts the property owner on notice that we know exactly what is going wrong and what they need to do better. And most of the times that can get resolved outside of court. But a lot of times we do have to go to court. The law also, under our drug nuisance abatement team, allows us to have public nuisance actions. Those are your overgrown lots, your weeds, rodents, or violence, criminal acts where you just feel afraid because of all the gunshots that you hear outside of your home. Those are cases also that come under our office.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. King, and thank you, Ms. Douglas.
Next question from Inglenook. What has the Crime Center done with the DOJ's $4.5 million grant received in May 2024?
Really, really great question. So once we receive the grant, City Council has approved receipt of those funds. And then it has to clear this whole administrative process before we can start dispersing those funds. The beauty of those funds is we are now in a position before the year ends to be able to start buying technology, which then has to also go back before the council. So again, DOJ approved, our senator advocated for us, the council has to accept those funds in the form of a vote, goes through administrative process to actually receive the funds because you don't receive them right away. Once you receive them, we're in a position to start purchasing more technology related to various things, including cameras, things related to our real-time crime center, other things related to ballistics and how we collect shell casings and finding ways to get information off those shell casings and other things they want to purchase. Once we want to purchase, then you also have to go through a process that also goes back before the council that they have to vote on the individual things that the police department want to actually purchase. So that's also a process. So these first few months, it's just literally the administrative piece of receiving the money, placing the orders, which a lot of them are on back order, the council approving all those processes, then being in a position to actually deploy that technology citywide. Chief, did I get it right? All right.
This one from East Lake. Can we get a four-way stop sign at 7600 2nd Avenue South? It's hard to see oncoming traffic.
Can you repeat the address? I have everyone, Kelvin Blevins here, who is part of our leadership team in the Department of Transportation. He is taking the address down. I don't know if you can get that. What we'll do is give that to the Department of Transportation to investigate to see if it warrants a two-way or a four-way stop sign or any other form of a speed cushion or some form of traffic calming to make sure that area is safe. Again, that has to be investigated. And unfortunately, it doesn't get thrown up at the top of the queue because, as you stated a few minutes ago, I think you told me it's over 300? Over 300 are already in a queue above it that have to be funded related to traffic calming measures citywide.
It's 7600 2nd Avenue South.
What is that, South East Lake or East Lake?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is. So, does anybody here live in District 5 East Lake? Like not North East Lake, South East Lake, Wyoming, actual East Lake? All right, somebody did because you asked that question. Anyway, we started the traffic calming on Division. And we've already started some other traffic calming measures on 2nd. So we'll continue to investigate East Lake because it's an actual isolated pilot program of supercharging ways to make that neighborhood safer. But I'm not sure for that actual intersection yet.
This one from Kilo Springs. Why aren't ordinances enforced at the city? Parking on lawns, grass, weeds, inoperable vehicles, etc.
We had to revamp our program. I know Darren Witt is here. I see Kim here, other folk from PEP here. We needed to enhance our actual manpower to make the enforcement part of enforcing our environmental codes work. How many team members have been hired now? 2, 3, 4? 4 to 5 people, 4 new team members have been hired to address these issues. All we need are the addresses. You don't have to give them to us right now. Do me a favor, my friend. Ms. D, stand up for us. You see this young lady right here, y'all? She's a part of that team. If you have the addresses of those inoperable vehicles in yards, please see her when this meeting's over. Give them to her, and we will be glad to pay them a visit. And she will offer either carrot or stick.
I was just about to ask the same thing.
Good evening, everyone. I serve as a supervisor for the PEP department, and we deal with the enforcement part of inoperable vehicles, overgrowth, junk, and debris on private property. We only handle the private property portion, but we have 4 new APOS officers that deal with parking on the street and on and off of the property. And if you would submit that information to us, we'll be more than happy to take a look at it. But most of it, we have already started the process of taking care of that. So we have been towing. We started the process, but doing towing is part of the Newtonville process, and it goes to court first. If the person do not appear in court, it goes to the Newtonville process, and one day you'll see one of our APOS officers arrive at your location to remove your vehicle.
Thank you so much. I do want to make sure that we respect the process and, follow the cards. If we have questions, please make sure you write it down on the card and send it in.
Yeah, whoever the gentleman is talking, thank you, JT, that's very helpful. We don't want to take that away. Just please see this young lady if you have additional questions for her after.
That number is 205-254-2061. 205-254-2061.
Again, everyone, two things. Two, if you have additional questions, please raise your hand so we can give you another card if you want to have a follow-up question. Two, many of us, team members, various departments, will be hanging around for some time after this if you want to come up and talk to us, to ask us some additional questions once the town hall has concluded.
Yes, sir. This one from Roebuck. What do you plan on doing to fix the homeless numbers from rising?
It's a really good question. Couple things. One is that we have a team member named Elena Melton. She's already stood up, but if you could just stand up again for folk to see you. So if my answer is too short or not sufficient for you, you can come up and see her where she can give you more detail on all the intentional, strategic things we're doing to reduce our homeless population. I'm extremely sensitive to our unsheltered, unhoused neighbors. One, I've gotten a chance to know them in various ways throughout the city over the last 15 years. And what I can say is even today, I tend to pull up and get out and talk to a lot of our homeless neighbors. And what I can tell you is the question is, what are we doing? So let me start with that. One, we have given significant amount of money to the tune of millions of dollars to support and increase additional emergency housing in the form of more shelters, beds for shelters. That's one. Two, we've also spent significant amounts of dollars every year in the tunes of multi-millions for all the homeless agencies throughout our city in a coordinated effort to support those who need additional resources to get off the streets. Three, we're working on a program that allows for micro shelters to literally move people to the next phase after emergency beds, after emergency housing, which is what we define as like midterm housing, not necessarily long-term. That being said, let me tell you some of the challenges. And I saw some of this literally last week on foot on the south side of town. I ran up on a group of homeless folk. There was a significant number of them, and I can tell you, only 2 of them were from the city limits of Birmingham. So we're a very nice city. Somehow we have this reputation that folk who are not from here, who need housing, who live on the streets, choose Birmingham in the entire state. So I'm not sure how to wrestle with that because a significant amount of those who are unhoused are not even from Birmingham. They literally come here. That's one. Two, we're working with various social services and agencies to find ways to assist folk. You should know there is a significant amount of folk who don't want our help. I know this because they tell me. 2 people told me last week, no, man, I don't want help. This is my ministry. I'm supposed to be out here. Another person says, it's my job to be out here to pray for these folk, and they're literally homeless too. So I have folk who want to be homeless, and then there's one other group within that is it's a very subset group. And it is folks who spent time in our military who just have no desire to be on the grid. They don't want to deal with Uncle Sam. They don't want to deal with taxes. They don't want an ID. They don't want to deal with any rules. They want to be out there. And so I don't have an answer for that in the immediate either. I think our focus is every day when we get the call, every day when we get the email, whether it's a camp, whether it's a commercial space, whether it's a squatter, we go in with carrot first to assist. How can we help? That is literally how we start. What's your name? Where you're from? How did you get out here? Repeat. Is there anything we can do for you? How can we help? There are a significant amount of folk who want the help, and we lean on Elena and her team. We lean on our service providers through a coordinated effort with One Roof to assist and provide services for those unhoused. So I hope that answered the question. For more detail, if you need more detail, if you want more detail, please see Elena on how we actually walk that out on an individual level for people we come in contact with.
So just because this is what I do, time check at 7:25. Just wanted to point that out as we continue on. This one from Roebuck: is there a political problem that you can't solve? This is a different question, but it's interesting. Is there a political problem that you can't solve due to certain restrictions? If so, what is that problem and how can the community help?
So gun violence is not a political problem. It is a community problem that has some political elements. I'm going to speak to the political elements first, and then I'll talk about why it's a community element. And JT, feel free to chime in. But I want to be succinct because we're coming up on time, and I want to get as many questions in as possible before we leave. I have seen when the federal government, the state government, and local government actually partner, you can solve anything. But when the federal government has inaction, when the state government either doesn't do something or do the opposite of what you need to address an issue, and when the local government can't do something because they don't have local control, we're left with some of the things that exist in our community. That is not to place blame at any level. That is simply to state a fact. I have no interest in fighting other elected officials. I have no interest in fighting people on their beliefs around guns. I do believe in common sense things. And so I think the gun violence in our community is at an epidemic crisis. And it's not just because of elected officials. We have this, again, this code of silence that it hampers our ability to take shooters off the street, y'all. You see, gun violence comes in multiple forms. It's not just homicides. It's also felony assaults where people are shot and survive. It's also shooting into occupied dwellings, shooting into occupied vehicles, and drive-by shootings. Of those five, I want to tell you the one that's the most prevalent. It is shooting into occupied dwellings. That is, someone drives on your street, shoots at a house, no one is shot, drives off. That happens too many times. Our BPD respond, whether it's from a 911 call, from a neighbor, not the house shot into, but someone who lives on the street, or a shot spotter. We go to that house. Guess what happens? The person know who they beefing with and refuse to cooperate with us. They won't tell us who's shooting at them. All of a sudden, they go back and forth. They keep going back and forth, retaliation. All of a sudden, someone is dead. Police not doing their job. So we struggle with that because if somebody shoots at my house, y'all trust me, either through my cameras or who I know I'm beefing with, I got to come off the information to keep my grandmama or my mama or my son or my child from dying. So we dangle money in front of people and people still don't talk. So that is a protracted problem that we will continue to elevate. We will continue to talk about. We don't deflect, we don't blame. We just tell people, we can solve this, we can decrease this, we can make this better, we can make it safer if everybody does their part. So I'm not asking anybody in this room to do too much. Just be responsible for your own household and be responsible for your block. Everything else will work itself out. But you can't ignore what's on your block, and you can't ignore what's in your home.
Staying on the topic of public safety, from Norwood, what's being done to address staffing at BPD?
That's a really great question. So, a couple of things have happened. I just expressed this last week at another town hall meeting. 4 years ago, in 2020, two things happened to police departments, mid-sized and large-sized cities across the nation. One was the coronavirus. And police officers, teachers, and nurses couldn't do what everyone else did, which was work from home. They had to keep being out there exposed. And what happened for those three professions, more so than a lot of other professions, is a significant amount of people retired, particularly for police officers. It's the highest rate of retirement since Birmingham has been Birmingham. And our recruiting classes did not match the number of people that retired. Something else also happened 4 years ago in 2020. the height of the coronavirus, George Floyd was murdered. He was killed. And I tell people, when he was killed, that wasn't isolated on an island to the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. That sent a ripple throughout our country for the next and youngest generation who had less of a desire because of trust, who want to actually be police officers. So if you have people retiring at this height and people desire to be police at this height, that is how you get your gap. That gap still exists 4 years later again in all mid-sized and large-sized cities across the nation. Turns out that our pay wasn't high enough, and so we increased our pay. That still hasn't gotten our recruiting up. We've offered other packages and incentives that still hasn't gotten those numbers up. We have now implemented in phases take-home cars for beat officers who actually live within the city limits. That still hasn't gotten those numbers up. What I can say is this: the current recruiting class is the largest class since 2020. So, you had 2020 and then we had this dip, but we're coming out of it in 2024, and we hope to still remain on this high end of increasing our numbers. But here's the deal, Chief, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna give the mic to Chief.
So as the mayor said, we do have the largest academy class that we've had since April of 2020. We're getting ready to start another academy class July 30th that is the same size. And then we will start another class again in November of this year. So my honest opinion, I think we're turning the curve. It's just taking some time. But let me tell you some of the things that we do offer. We're the only law enforcement agency in Alabama that can hire at the age of 19. Think about your graduating senior in high school. Many of them are 19 or about to turn 19. Birmingham is the only police department in the state of Alabama that has 20-year retirement. Hire at 19, retire at 39, go do something else, or stay longer. There's more opportunities for advancement in this department than there is any other department in the state of Alabama. Because of our size, there's just more opportunities. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do to recruit. We have dedicated recruiting team. And so we're trying everything we can, but it's kind of like with crime. You're our best help. You know people who may be looking for a profession. And public safety is like no other profession that you can get into, because to be able to help people, to give back to your community, to serve your community, you can't pay for that feeling. You know, that's something you can't pay for. So we're working hard, but I honestly believe we've turned the curve. We're starting to pick up, and we will get out of this. It's just going to take a little bit of time. No positions have been cut from Birmingham Police Department for police officers. Many people believe they have. That is not the case. That did not occur in Birmingham, Alabama. So we are fully funded for all of our positions. We can run large police academies. We just need to get the right people in to serve our community.
Thank you, Chief. So, we're coming up on a time. Rick has already given us a time check, y'all. But there are a significant amount of cards left. So a couple of things what we do. We'll get in a few more questions, because I've never seen a stack that large actually in our town hall meeting. So I think we need to try to stay a little bit longer. But two, we've done this process long enough to tell you the following. We answer every question. So even by email or phone, your questions will be answered if it can't be answered tonight. Third thing is, again, we will still be standing here once we wrap the official meeting up if there's some additional questions you have for us if we were not able to get to you in front of everyone. So if you could continue with a few more questions, sir.
Yes, sir. This one deals with safe streets. This is from First Avenue North. How will safe streets affect the small business owners in this area?
So safe streets won't negatively impact the business owners. Majority of the business owners are actually on First North before you come into the actual interior of the neighborhood, Eastlake. But two, for the few businesses in, we actually got their input. So I want everybody to know this, because Councilor Moore, you know this. but I want your residents who you serve to know this. We're very intentional about doing things with residents, not to you, meaning for that pilot project, we went to the door not once, not twice, but 3 times. We went to neighborhood meetings 4 times. We had a town hall meeting dedicated for this topic in isolation. We got their permission and buy-in before we ever put up one barrier. That was on purpose. And we talked not only to the homeowners, but we also talked to the renters. And we not only talked to the renters, we also talked to the small business owners and all the passers in the entire interior of that neighborhood. It was intentional to have that type of community engagement as well as community buy-in before we did anything of that nature. So there's no negative impact to those businesses at all.
Stop faster than I thought you would. Penfield Park. What do I need to do to get drainage from a ditch cleaned out?
We can get a ditch clean. We'll get a ditch clean. That's the shortest answer I can give you tonight. We'll get the ditch clean. Make sure we get the ditch clean.
I got a phone number and email and a name, so we'll follow back up on that. Okay, couple of questions. One from Eastlake, the other I'm not sure where, but they're both education related. What can we do about mentoring youth in trade for our area, and what can y'all do about supporting small school events, programs, and just anything that kids would like to see happen?
Yeah, I was the education committee chair. I'm community development now. One of the things that would be helpful for not just myself, but each and every counselor is to just know what events are taking place at the schools. So whoever wrote the question, if you're just including us in those or sending us some type of notification, most of the time, counselors would love to give some discretionary funds to those events to make sure that those events go off without a hitch and that there's no gaps that are there. And we just want to be able to support anyway. I know that there are several counselors that put money towards different athletic teams at the schools. If there's any, spelling bees or whatever the case may be, if we know about it, we will be willing to support. And so I would just encourage you to just make sure that you include your counselor in those conversations. As far as mentoring, I do want to, just kind of, since it's a good segue, we do have an event coming up this Saturday, as a matter of fact, at Patton Park in partnership with Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, where we're teaching young men how to grill. We're asking all fathers, sons, brothers, any man that's in the community, we want you to come out because, yes, we will be grilling and, that's fun and all. But the real goal is to really encourage our young men and to really inspire them, right? Use this as an opportunity to really build them up, especially with everything that we have going on in our city and in our society. And so just wanted to drop that.
I think this kind of plays off of this. Somebody asked me to announce this. We have 5 seniors from Woodlawn High School here tonight. Over the past year, we have worked on an initiative to expose students to revitalization efforts happening in Woodlawn and become a part of the changes. How can we get funding and support for this student-led initiative?
Is that the SGA? No? Okay. I would love to be able to know who the contact person is. Hey, how y'all doing? Yeah, y'all stand up, man. Y'all give it up for them. I would love to be able to connect with you all to find out how I can help. So I'll be here after this meeting is over with.
And I've got a phone number and a name also. From Roebuck, Coca-Cola's expansion of the streets, and will the manufacturer be held accountable for the area?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Coca-Cola's expansion in the Kingston area and the expansion of the streets there, what will be done to keep the manufacturer accountable for maintaining the area?
Got you. So I know that Coca-Cola has for a very long time been a great partner in District 4 and the city of Birmingham. Their expansion is really going to, it's a crown jewel for District 4 actually, because of the amount of money that they are investing into the district. And so I don't see a reason as to why they wouldn't, partner with the city to make sure that that area stays intact and that everything is in a way that it's supposed to be in terms of our streets and our roads and things of that nature. I don't know if y'all know this, but they're investing over $300 million. And so I don't think you do something like that and just let the stuff go by the wayside. And so I know that Coca-Cola will, again, like I said, be a great partner to not only District 4, but the city.
And from East Point Circle, can a sign be put up on Zion City Road, turning off of Terrence Huffman Road, prohibiting 18-wheelers from coming through the neighborhood?
Well, Rick, I don't mean to correct you, but that's East Pernt.
Not Pernt.
Pernt. I appreciate the few people that caught that. You got that address? Can you say that address one more time? We'll investigate it. Again, on the traffic piece, we don't come up here and just tell you we'll do that. We give that to the actual professionals to research and investigate traffic flow in that area to see if it warrants additional traffic calming.
It's Zion City Road, turning off of Terrence Huffman Road.
And I'll just kind of, speak on that as well, just a little bit more, because I know that that's something that, for those residents in that area, is really a passion point. You got to think, when you're riding down your residential streets and you're used to just seeing cars, right? But then we have renovations that are done to the highways, and you have trucks that are rerouted into your area. It becomes a very scary thing and a very detrimental thing to have 18-wheelers and big trucks riding through your neighborhood, sometimes even speeding through, right? Not only is it a scary thing, but it wears and tears on the roads. And so residents in that area really would like to be able to see something done to help those trucks to be rerouted, gone in a different direction, and really just return back to where their original route. And so I definitely want to make sure that if the signs is something that will do it, that we partner together on making that happen. But if there's another avenue that we need to be able to take to ensure the safety of those residents, that we do that.
So Kelvin, check out the signs, that's one. Two, you can get the captain of the East Precinct. If there are actual violations, give them a little attention in the form of tickets.
I'll also add, if you can get those trucking companies, the names of those companies, it also helps for us to go out and talk to those companies and let them know what other route that they can take. Because usually that's enforcement. We can put up a sign, but we can't have law enforcement there 24/7. So talking to those companies, give them another route to take also helps as well. So if you can get the names of those companies, send them back to us, that would help tremendously.
Okay, Mayor, we put a pretty good dent in the questions that we had left over. We've got contact numbers on most everything here. I don't want to call out anybody, but I will say, if Ms. Sankey from Inglewood, if you can find me afterwards, I see your question, and we can talk to you individually about that and do a follow-up because I need an address. But Ms. Sankey, if you're still here, if you'll just come to me immediately afterwards, and we'll get your phone number and your address so we can address that particular concern. With that, Mayor, we will do follow-up on all of these over the next few days. We won't be able to do it in one day, but we will do follow-ups.
Yes, sir. All right, everyone, we come to the end of our town hall where we do one thing. JT Moore, say some closing remarks. I'll say some closing remarks, and then you are allowed to go home. We'll be standing here for a few minutes before I have to get him to his family. So we're sticking around for a few minutes. You have some additional things you wanted to share with us. With that, JT.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I want to say thank you to you for coming out here, answering the questions of the residents. I know that they get a chance to see me all the time and ask me questions and probably are upset at times when I can't give certain answers, and so I'm glad that you were able to provide that to them. I also want to say thank you to your staff, each and every one of you, for coming out and providing more insight. Thank you. Yes, please give it up. I know a lot of times, you know, there are certain issues and concerns that we have, and we're very passionate about it because we see it every day, we deal with it every day, and you think that, you know, the people in City Hall may not care or may not be as, it may not be a priority for them. But I hope that tonight showed that that is not the case, that you have people in City Hall that love and care about District 4, right? Each and every neighborhood, each and every street, each and every house, we care. And so just want to you know, put that out there. Lastly, I did, again, want to just remind people this Saturday, July the 20th, Patton Park, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., District 4 will be partnering with Omega Psi to teach young men how to grill. It's called the Art of the Cookout. So y'all come out there, get some free food. Y'all pray the rain away. We're going to have a good time, and it's going to be really good. And then August 24th, I want to say August 24th, we're supposed to be having a collard green cookout in Kingston. So I don't know how many of y'all got skills with collard greens. All right, there we go. So we'll be having the collard green cook-off there, August 24th. More detail or more information to come. But again, thank y'all for coming out tonight, and I'm gonna kick it back over to the mayor.
Thank you. I'll try to make this very brief. One, I want to thank again Woodlawn for hosting us and allowing us to be here tonight. Two, I want to thank the residents. Listen, each of you are very busy people with lives, whether you're working full-time, part-time, or retired. You have lives, you have families, and you could be anywhere else tonight, including being at home. But you're here. It's because you're concerned, you care, and committed to your neighborhood. And so thank you for being with us tonight. Three, I want to thank our entire staff. They've worked all day and then they came tonight. So thank you all for being here, answering and addressing questions. And then four, again, major shout out to our neighborhood officers that are present. Thank you for all you do on behalf of your neighborhood. I know it's a lot of work. My last note is two-part. One is this process. Again, we were not able to get to every question, but the process we created, because we've been doing this for quite some time, you'll get some type of follow-up if we were not able to get to your actual question. Work with him and represent you, co-represent you. I believe in him. It is not always his fault. Literally, I want to repeat that, it's not always his fault. So you can put some of that heat on me. I deserve it more than he does. But he cares, y'all. He's passionate about representing you. You have a true advocate for you. I just want to publicly say that in front of the residents of District 4. This is a good man, he's a good leader, and he's fighting for you. I can vouch for that. With that said, I hope everyone has a good night. Be